You're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast, your new favorite podcast for everything Bills and Sabres. What is going on, everybody? You are listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast, your favorite podcast for all things Bills and Sabres, with the pals, Nigel, Tom, and Jake. We got episode 38 coming at you. Don't forget to go and follow us on the social medias. You know all of them. You know what they are and all those things. You can find us at the handle Let's Go Buff Pod. That's Buff with Dose Fs. Let's say hello to the fellas. You know what, Jake? I'm going to start with you today. Jake, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Oh, I get to go first. This is an honor. But yeah, I'm good, man. Weather's nice.
Look happy with me.
Excuse me.
Tom, I don't want to leave you hanging for too long. I'm
we
good,
have a
man.
totem pole for a reason.
There's an order. There's a way that we do things, you guys. My bad. Tom, how are you, buddy?
Ruffled. That's how I am.
Did you say ruffled or ruffled?
Yeah. No, my feathers have been ruffled.
My feathers are ruffled. Oh, buddy. I'm sorry to ruffle your feathers. They look all very nice. Your feathers look like they're
Thank you.
pretty-
I would like
pretty
to drink
decent order
in your
there.
honor then. So
We can do that. Should we get right into the beverages, boys?
Oh yeah, we're gonna need them today. Let's
Yes,
do
we are. Tom, what is that? A flipping Four Loko in a bottle there?
it.
Here we go. Ready?
You gotta ask.
3, 2, 1.
We have rules for a reason, Nigel.
We have rules for a reason. All right. I'm going to actually, Tom, what do you got going on there first with the bottle?
Hey, happy summer, boys. Corona Light, baby.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, I love it.
Cerveza.
I
It
love
had that feel today, dude. It was hot here.
I know. I don't want to work and I want to hang out outside, and that's all I want to do.
Definitely wasn't hot here today, but the sun has not gone away all day. It's been pretty nice. Torpedo, what are you drinking, bro?
I am drinking from Keg and Lantern Brewing a Green Eyes IPA. So
Nice.
do
Green
either of you have
eyes.
green eyes? Am I
Kind of
drinking
a-
one of you?
I have
Kind of-
I have like a hazel green eye situation. Yeah.
But yeah, West Coast IPA. Yeah,
Nice, brother.
tastes nice. And then in spirit of killing the Sabre season, I also have a glass of whiskey.
Ah, very good. In
Sure.
celebration.
We're
Love
getting
that.
into it today.
Yep. Well, in the spirit of getting into it, I am drinking an IPA from Two Roads. It is called Rocket to Ruin. And I think it's called that because this is a 9.5% ABV. So I think you very quickly become ruined when you're drinking these. I'll be honest, I don't drink a ton anymore, at least not by myself. I'm a social drinker. I'm a little nervous as to what this is going to do to me. So we'll see what happens here.
See you in an hour, boys.
Yeah,
Cheers.
that's what I'm saying.
Cheers.
Hey. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers. This is a big day. This
It
is a big day.
day. Tom, why don't you kick us off? Why is it a big day? Why am I in such a great goddamn mood?
Because your favorite Sabres coach ever, Mr. Don Granato, has hit the streets. He's hit the road. He got the boot, and I hope the door hit him on the way out.
Yes, sir.
Tom, you're fired up about him.
It got announced way early today. Let's see. I got to work right around 8:40. I was late. And I think that's I must have got the notification on Twitter right around 9 a.m.
First thing Nigel does when he reports to work is, check
was
social
on-
media.
It was on my phone. I just got a notification. I wasn't looking at anything deliberately. But there are a couple Sabres beat writers that I have a notification for when they tweet. And yeah, I saw it around 9 a.m. today that the Sabres officially have released Don Granato of his head coaching duties, along with a couple other folks. There was one of the assistant coaches, not Matt Ellis or Marty Wilford. Jake, do you remember the name?
Yeah, Jason Christie, and then
That's the
also the video coordinator, and his name was Matt Smith, got let go with Don.
So, dude, first of all, being Matt Smith today, waking up and like seeing that graphic, the following have been removed. Head coach assistant coach and then the videographer or whatever, dude.
That's an
He must
astray.
Yeah, dude, just catching a random stray with all these big time firings. I would have been like, what the fuck, dude? Like a simple text would have been fine.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, you don't have to do that to me.
As if
Couldn't leak that
anybody,
one out in a week.
as if anybody knows who the videographer is, dude. I feel bad for that guy. But
Well, it kind
yeah,
of sounds like if I asked you who the videographer, you'd probably be like, I don't know, some random dude named Matt Smith. Like, pick two names. That's
right, dude, probably or Tom Smith.
exactly. Yeah, that's second guess.
Gone with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, dude. Jake, what are your just initial? Because I texted you. What were your initial reactions when you first found out today?
I think not as strong as Tom set it up to be. I really did like him as a coach and a person. Like, he didn't rub me the wrong way personally, like some of the other coaches that we've gone through in this drought era, which for the record has been 8. Don Granato was the 8th coach since the last time Buffalo made the playoffs. But yeah, I wish the results were different because I did like him as a coach. I think he had a lot of positives. There are a number of players that are better players today than they were before they started playing for Granato, and so I think his impact on the team will continue to be felt in future seasons when hopefully results are a bit different for the team as a whole. So yeah, a bit melancholy for me. I'm really happy that we didn't run back the same coaching staff next year. It was clear that a different voice for the team was needed. Coaching changes happen in the NHL often because they work. Teams respond differently to different voices, and it was time for a new voice in the Sabres room. So,
yeah, dude, for sure. I know for me, it was just, it was honestly relief. Like I did, and I'm glad that I'm glad they're not wasting any time, because obviously I'm relieved because I just don't have any amount of confidence that this is a guy that can get the job done. And I want to echo your sentiments because obviously I went in on him hard last episode. But he is a great dude. He's done a lot for the sport. Like, the Granato family is a hockey family, dude. Cammy Granato is an absolute pivotal figure in women's hockey, dude. Like, the sport maybe not owes, but the sport respects the Granato family. And the guy is I mean, we had several players last year have career years under him. I think there is something to be said about his ability to develop players. I just think he's not a head coach kind of guy.
yeah.
So I admittedly feel a ton of relief for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm not going to spend all offseason wondering if we're going to waste another season with this guy. We're going to have our pick of the litter with coaches, right? Because we'll get into Kevin Adams' presser today, but it sounds like the coaching search has gotten started as soon as today, which feels pretty significant to me. So yeah, dude, I think relief is the big thing that I'm feeling. Tom, did you have something you wanted to add? I saw you sit back up.
Oh.
Or are you good?
No, I just think I think it speaks dividends that they made the move right away, right?
Yeah.
That they weren't gonna just kind of dilly daddle and not make a decision. Like, okay, rip the Band-Aid off, let's turn the page, and I think that's important.
Yeah,
I agree. I think the decision wasn't made today or yesterday. I think to me, I think the decision was probably made around the Detroit game a few Saturdays ago, where I think we all remember it. They were down 3-0 in the first 10 minutes. Yeah. Part of Kevin Adams' press conference today was talking about how he wanted to give this group of players with this coaching staff a chance to battle back into the playoff race. And so I think he has been thinking about this season, but really kind of came to a head when they couldn't get up for those games where they couldn't win the next game. They couldn't battle their way back into a contention spot. They were always a game behind. So I think that probably was the nail in the coffin for the playoff hopes, and probably the nail in the coffin for Don Granato.
Yeah, a couple Don Granato stats here. In 4 seasons, his record was 122, 125, and 27. So almost perfectly 500, which is just mediocre in the NHL. 500 isn't going to get you anything. this is a huge bullet point here. And shout out Jake. Jake was the one that did all this research and our planning document here and got all of our stats lined up. Don Granato's 7th most games coached without a playoff appearance in league history, dude. That feels like a crazy one. Like that's bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, you're not usually the coach of a team for 4 seasons in a row if you don't make the playoffs in those 4 years. So
yep.
It's telling, but we're moving past it. I don't know about you, but I really liked some of the quotes that Kevin Adams said in his presser.
Bring us through some of those, Jake.
The early on in the press conference, he just owned up and said, "Look, it starts with me. I need to be better. It's on me. I'm the leader, and I will be better." And I think he could blow that off as just kind of a nothing quote, but I think it's telling. It speaks to the culture that he's trying to instill and the leadership qualities that he has. And for a long time, I did not feel that there was any of that in the organization. For, close to a decade, probably. Tone at the top is important, and he clearly, I think, through his actions and his words, embodies those things. So I was happy to hear that one.
Yeah. I think, I think as for me as a fan, dude, like I want to see ownership of the failures being taken, right? Like I don't want to see finger pointing. Like, and he's right, dude. Like, I certainly think of all the things that were wrong this season. It's excuse me. It's a lot more on Granato than it is on Kevin Adams. We all know I have some gripes with the team that he put together. But to be my own devil's advocate, he ran back the same team that was 1 point out of a playoff spot last season. So like, it's not like anything crazy. I will be very interested to see what his moves look like this offseason, because I do not think you can run it back again and only change the coach. I think there does need to be some different things roster-wise, whether that's like type of player stylistically or, something else. But I think this is an offseason where you're going to see him be a little bit more active, almost out of necessity. Right?
Agreed. Yeah.
One thing that I'm really loved with what I saw or heard from his presser today, he is being deliberate in saying that we have to be done blaming the youth on whatever this team's shortcomings might be, which I was so grateful to hear, dude, because like, okay, yes, these guys aren't old, right? But Darlene has been in the NHL since he was 18, and he's now 23, 24 years old, somewhere in there. So like, he's a veteran. Like, yeah, he's 23 years old, and at 23 I was doing disgusting, gross things and not a professional athlete. But like, that we have to tear that Band-Aid off, dude. Like we cannot continue to keep relying on that. So I was really thankful to hear him bring that up in his presser today. That was another one for me I was really grateful to hear.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, look at Zach Benson. He stepped in as an 18-year-old. Youth doesn't mean poor play, and age, being an older team, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to play well. It's not really about the age of the team to me, and it sounds like to Kevin Adams too. And yeah, that's encouraging
for sure.
It's he said it. It's go time. His quote was, "It's time to perform on an individual and team level." Time's now.
Yep, time is now, very much. Excuse me, let me backtrack here. Some people might have noticed or might not have that there were some assistant coaches that were retained. And this one is a bit of a head scratcher to me, but the coaches that were retained are Matt Ellis, Matty Wilford, who are both assistant coaches. So Matt Ellis runs the power play, Marty Wilford runs the PK and coaches the defense, and then goalie coach Mike Bales. All three of those guys were retained. Kevin Adams did indicate that there's a chance they could be in different roles. I guess if you wanted to use the word strength for this this hockey team, you could make the argument, I guess, that the PK was a strength. So today, and maybe I'm becoming famous, dude, Lance Lysowski quote tweeted me on X, Jake, from the Let's Go account.
Nice.
No, it wasn't. He crucified me because I responded to him and was like, because he tweeted about the Don Granado news, and I was like, "What's up with Wilford and Ellis not being fired?" And I'll read you exactly what he said because
please do.
I got super stoked. I was like, "Oh shit, dude!" Lance quote tweeted me like, "This is going to be great for the pod." Yada yada yada. Now he basically called me an idiot. I'm scrolling through X right now to try. Okay, so I said, Lance, what's the story with Ellis and Wilford not being fired as well? They're just as guilty, in my opinion. Are their contracts up this year and they didn't need to fire them? He quote tweeted me with, "Why would the Sabres fire Wilford? PK and defensive corps were absolutely strengths this season. Don't be surprised if the next coach retains Wilford. Same with goalie coach Mike Bales. Also, Ellis may shift into an eye in the sky or development role." So I have an issue with him saying that they were, quote, absolutely strengths this season. I think they were better than the offense, which is a bar that's like 6 inches off the ground to clear. So, like, I certainly wouldn't call them strengths. If there's a member of the coaching staff you want to keep, okay, I'll admit that, like, of all of them, I would keep Wilford, but I certainly wouldn't point to the PK. Maybe PK was pretty solid this year. I wouldn't point to our defense and be like, "Yeah, that was a really significant strength this year." Do you have thoughts on that at all, Jake?
Yeah, well, first of all, when you said he crucified you, I thought it was going to be a hell of a lot worse than that.
Oh,
I
no,
was licking my lips. I was
Lance-
ready for this.
Lance, that's crucifying for Lance. He's incredibly mild-mannered on social media, as a pundit probably should be, just for their own sake. But yeah, he, I don't know. Anytime a guy like that calls you out, it's like, "Oh shit, dude."
Fair enough. No, I mean, I agree with him. I think I do disagree with you. I think penalty kill and defensive play were strengths of the team. I mean, you can say that as a relative sense compared to how the offense and power play looked for sure. But I don't think it's an accident, and I don't think it's only because of an increase in play quality for UPL and why he had such a good season. Part of the reason he had such a good season is team defense from the team. I think he stepped up in a lot of ways too, but a big part of it is the structure that they played with and keeping shots manageable for him. So yeah, to me, it makes sense that is a strength of the team. I definitely think that he should stay, and it makes sense to me why all three were retained, particularly Mike Bales. I think he's done a fantastic job over the past 5-6 seasons that he's been in Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm in on Mike Bales staying. I'm good with that. Sorry, Jay, did you have more to say? I don't want to interrupt you.
No, you're good. All I was gonna say is it makes sense to me why they didn't get fired. I think you let the head coach come in. For all we know, they hire a head coach in May, and all three of those guys are out the door on May 2nd after they hire somebody May 1st. We don't know, but they're retained right now. So if the new coaching staff wants to include those guys, great. If not, see ya. And so I'm sorry, I'm on a roll. One last thing too. I think the systems that they deployed, with the significant exception of the power play, weren't necessarily my biggest issue with the coaching staff. For me, the biggest gripe that I had was not being ready to play games.
Yeah.
Knowing that the first goal against was going to be against Buffalo, and then not being able to pull your shit up and battle back.
Yeah.
Those were the big ones for me, and that's on the head coach. That's the head coach's job.
Yeah. The only one I like, you could make a case for me for Wilford. Bales, I'm in on. Matt Ellis's power play was an absolute goddamn debacle, dude. And as soon as teams started cheating to that wing that Tage Thompson was on and limited that shot, we seem to have absolutely no answer. And with the talent on this roster, that to me is 80,000 different kinds of unacceptable. Matt Ellis for me is in the same bucket as Don Granado. Player development, and that should just be where it starts and ends. So I don't know, man. Ellis for me he needs to be an eye in the sky player development guy. And it sounds like Kevin Adams hinted at that in his presser today. Ryan here, one of my good buddies, Ryan. Ryan, thanks so much for hanging out with us, dude. Sees a point for the PK having a solid year, but so many defensive lapses. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I said, right? Like PK was insanely improved, but just, still a lot of defensive lapses that just felt like were big head scratchers for me. So We don't need to spend too much more time on this. He unless there's anything else you wanted to add, Jake or Tom.
No, we can move past.
Cool. He did have a couple things. There were some questions asked about what he's looking for in his next coach. And I think the thing that you and I are stoked on, Jake, is the fact that it sounds like, let's see if his words go into action with the hiring. He is dead set on making sure that we have some legitimate NHL coaching experience in this next hire. So that right off the bat eliminates a case for a guy like Seth Appert.
Yeah.
Richard Gromberg has been a guy that's been linked to the next, head coaching job in the NHL for a couple years. Mike Pekka, I saw a little bit. And then I'm going to blank on his name, but he deserves to have his name said because what he's doing with that program is insane. But the head coach over at Denver, University of Denver, that guy is on a rocket to the NHL in terms of coaching. But if Kevin Adams sticks to what he said, it won't be any of these guys that get hired. What are your thoughts on some of the things that he mentioned for the next head coach, Jake?
I was a little worried that they would hire Seth Appert as the coach too. It was thrown around. I don't know how much it was reported or more just commented on by Jeff Marek. But yeah, I'm happy that he won't be the coach. I don't think this team needs a young, inexperienced coach. They need somebody that can harness the talent that they have and get them ready to play every night and build their confidence as a group. And yeah, I think that's really important. It seemed like he had some front runners. He seemed, Kevin Adams did. He seemed very clear that he had a distinct direction in his mind where he wanted to go. And he specifically said that NHL head coaching pedigree is important to him. So I think that's good. And there's certainly a lot of names out there that could be good fits.
Yeah, totally, dude. And I imagine you and I will get into this in an episode now that we know that that this is going to be something that's going to happen this offseason. We're going to hire a new coach. Do we want to dive in with a name or two right now, Jake, or do we save it?
Maybe we touch on who's out there and just get the juices flowing with people, and we can dive into them more further depending on how long the search takes.
You put the list together, bro. Let her rip.
All right. In no particular order, coaches out there that could be a good fit. Craig Berube let go by St. Louis this year. I'll run through them quick. Lindy Ruff let go by New Jersey this year. Old friend Lindy. Not sure about that one, but he's on the list. He's got to be. Gerard Gallant is high on this list. He coached last season in New York and has had an excellent resume wherever he's gone. Bruce Boudreau is another one that I threw out here. I think he might be a sneaky good fit. I'm not going to lie to you. Jay Woodcroft, another name out there, fired by Edmonton this past year. I don't think Edmonton's failures were necessarily his fault early in the season. Young coach, but still has experience. And then finally on the list that we'll mention for today is Todd McClellan, let go by the Kings this season. Any names jump out to you in there, Nige, real quick before we move past?
I got two, and it's Berube and it's Gallant. Those are the two right now that, like, if we could put pen to paper on one of those guys immediately, you take your pick. I think they're pretty similar coaches. I think Gallant, based on what I know, is a little bit more of a player's coach than Berube is. I think Berube is pretty no nonsense. But I think that is exactly what this team needs right now. And so for me, Berube and Gallant are at the top of my list. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think both those guys, I agree with you. Gallant is more of a player's coach, and I think he relies a little bit more on some strong leadership in the room necessarily. So I'd feel good about either of those guys. The other one I want to throw in there is Bruce Boudreau. He's a very experienced coach. He's had success in places. And the biggest thing for me is the players love him, and they love him because he is really good at building up confidence in his players and helping them gel together as a team and as individuals, I think, to get to where they need to go. So I wouldn't be mad about him. I'm not saying he's the best option. I'm not saying I want him necessarily, but I think he is a very valid entry to the list. So
yeah, for sure. I wouldn't be mad about that one.
If you're listening, who do you want to be coach? Let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you guys
Tom,
think the timeline is of a head coach hire? Do we have to wait until the playoffs to be over, or can that happen the next few weeks here?
It kind of depends on who we're interviewing, right? If we're interviewing one of these guys that are just chilling on their couch watching the playoffs, then it's a different story. I believe, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, some of those guys, specifically the guys at the bottom, aren't they assistants in some places right now? There's a couple of assistants out there that are creeping their heads up as pretty legitimate head coaching candidates. But so to answer your question, Tom, I think it's dependent on who we're interviewing.
Can you interview coaches that are on playoff teams?
You can.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd need permission, and they'd have to agree to it. But
correct. It's like the NFL. All right.
It's unlikely though. I think.
That happens way more in the NFL than it does in the NHL. It's still allowed, but for some reason the NHL, most of that shit doesn't take place until end of the season.
It blows my mind that NFL coaches during a playoff run will go and interview with them.
I hate that, dude.
Oh, I hate it too. I
hate that.
Curious if it was going to happen. Yeah,
that's really. There may even be rules that they're not allowed to, but
I think I just pulled that out of my ass trying to sound confident. I might be wrong.
That checks out.
But you guys both thought it. Jake looked for a second, but he was so confident. He might be right.
You were. Yeah, that's the thing. You say it with confidence, I'll believe it.
Yeah, I honestly am pretty sure that it's allowed, but it isn't common.
No.
And significantly less so than the NFL, that's for sure.
So in theory, we're getting a decision the next few weeks here. You would be surprised if it was further than that?
It can take some time. I mean, it depends on the team. Like some teams fire a coach and hire somebody else a few days later. Others can take months with it. I just given how Kevin Adams presented it, it seems like he has some candidates on a short list. I think it'll probably be a few weeks, not a few months. But
the way that Kevin Adams spoke in that presser today, it sounded like he was starting interviews like today. Like he was finishing up that presser and then heading to an interview.
Well, guys, I got my call, so yeah, I can confirm.
Like those were the vibes that he was giving off. He's like, no, it's starting today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, damn, okay. Like,
hey, good. Man, good.
I feel similarly, Tom. I think it is good.
Don't sit on your freaking hands. Figure it out.
Yeah,
that tells me two things. He's not interested in somebody that's currently coaching. That sometimes teams could wait around to see who gets let go after a bad playoff stumble or something like that. And secondly, and more importantly, I think Kevin Adams wants a coach in place before the draft at the end of June. So
yeah, that to me is a big one. Here's the only thing I would say with waiting for coaches, Jake, and this guy I would pick above anybody else on the planet right now. But Rod Brindamore's contract is up at the end of this season. I would back up the Brinks truck for Rod the Bod, dude. I think he is just a monster player his whole career, right? But then I don't know, dude. I'd be so thrilled if Rod Brindamore was the coach of this team. I don't know why on God's green earth he would leave Carolina right now when they're right there, dude. It's gonna take one thing going their way for them to be Stanley Cup winners. But
yep, I agree. They're right there. They have a lot of pressure on them this year. They bucked the trends that they usually do of not picking up rental players with grabbing Jake Gensel. And they've not really made a convincing deep run yet with this core. I think pressure is on
for sure
to them. So
which if the pressure's on and they stumble again, I wonder if they're like, listen, Brindamore, we're not going to re-up you.
Could be. I mean, he's been there a long time.
Yes.
We'll see. Yeah, that's a hypothetical, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get more into this coaching stuff. Jake and I probably, while Tom's on maternity leave, will we will probably get a coaching episode in here and dig into some more with some of these candidates that we would like to see. But with that being said, we will now officially get into our full Sabres season autopsy, which was the original plan for today. But with the Don Granato firing, we knew we just felt like we had to start with that.
It's connected.
It's connected. Yeah, for sure. Jake, you, like I said, dude, this planning doc is gorgeous. Do you want to take us through what you got here? Or do you want me to do it?
Sure, I can. Yeah, I think to keep us moving because we got a lot to cover here.
We do.
So what I did was I looked at the season record and broke it down into 10-game chunks. So first 10 games all the way through. The last chunk obviously is 12 to get to the full 82 game mark. I'm not going to read through every chunk of games in their record or anything like that, but overall the Sabres finished the season 39, 37, and 6 with a total of 84 points, and that equates to a 0.51% points percentage. You mentioned it earlier when we were talking about Granato's record. You're not going anywhere with a 0.5% point percentage in the NHL. And here they are. They missed the playoffs. They significantly underperformed. They finished with 7 less points in the current season than they did the previous. Unacceptable for a team that just rolled it back, pretty much the same roster, same coach. With that said, some of the overarching trends from this 10-game chunk little analysis that I did is there's more consistency than I think there was in the previous season. The previous season, they had a significant dip in the fall and then climbed back and overperformed in the spring. This year, 2023, 2024, there was more consistency where in 10-game stretches, they were winning 4, 5, or 6 games, no more, no less. And yeah, it's just not consistency is good, but you need to be a little bit better with your consistency. It took them until chunk 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, chunk 6 to win 6 games. So that's games 51 to 60 of the season. And we talked about this before too. I think their first 3-game winning streak came sometime in February.
Yep.
You're not going to the playoffs if you're losing every other game. And that's pretty much what they did. We'll get to some reasons why in a moment or two here. But any other thoughts you had on looking at that? Like, did anything surprise you or jump out to you that you didn't expect?
This truly, dude, the consistency is remarkable. Point percentages in each of these chunks. I'm going to read these. So this is the percentage of points that we got out of what we could have got, right? Or like the amount of points we could have gotten in these 10-game stretches, with that last one being the 12. So 50%, 50%, 35%, 55%, 50%, 60%, 55%, 54%. That is absolutely crazy, dude. You're so consistently mediocre that like it flirts with being impressive. Like, how are you that mediocre for that long?
Yeah.
82 games of mediocrity. Absolutely incredible, dude.
It is. Yeah. But here we are.
And so based on what you put here, Jake, that stretch from November 25th to December 13th, that seems like that was something that kind of killed us in a way.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a terrible stretch of getting points. This is a great visual, dude. Yeah. I'm good. Continue.
Yeah, I think it's important. And so with that consistently average throughout the season, but they started off kind of not on the right foot for the season. They drew a tough matchup for game 1. They had the President Trophy winning Rangers, but then they fumbled the bag against the Islanders the next 2 nights later. And that theme just kind of continued where they dug themselves a hole. By October 26th, so 2 weeks into the season, they were 4 points out of a playoff spot at that point. They never were able to recover. They I think at one point climbed to within 3 points of a playoff spot, but they were consistently behind the 8 ball for the entire season. And there are teams that can overcome that and battle back from that, but it's hard. It's not easy. There's a reason that teams that are in a playoff spot on November 1st and American Thanksgiving as some milestones, those teams typically go on to make the postseason. So just for reference, this year in the Western Conference, 6 out of the 8 teams that qualified for the playoffs were in a playoff spot on Thanksgiving. In the East, at least 6 of 8 teams that were in a playoff spot at American Thanksgiving are now in the playoffs. There's some big matchups tonight to decide that last spot, but Washington, Detroit, Philadelphia, they're all still bubble teams. So point being, most teams that make the playoffs are performing well consistently throughout the season, but at a slightly better clip than Buffalo was consistent this year.
Yeah.
So
4
yeah,
points out feels so close,
It's 2 games. It's 2 wins.
right?
Yeah.
That feels like nothing, and it was from October.
yeah,
This
but
is one of the issues that you get, not issues, but like crazy things with sports that have such crazy long seasons like this.
Yeah,
Whoa, excuse me, I burped. There's that 9.5 Rockets of Ruin coming up. So yeah, like baseball, dude. Like baseball, they play what? Like, I don't know, just under 200 games in a season.
who
Like
cares?
it's preach, dude. Oh my god, baseball's so stupid.
Clearly
Okay.
not a baseball podcast.
I don't know
Maybe.
why I'm even bringing up baseball
Yeah.
in this. Continue, Jake. I
what
don't
are we
know.
doing?
What an idiot, dude. Shut up,
You're right.
Nigel.
You're right though. Like the statistical number of like statistical averages that can happen here
Yeah.
is like it's just wild that
It
like you
is.
can't get
You
yourself
can't get
out.
there. Right,
Ah,
right. Whereas
yeah.
football, like 2 weeks can change the entire course
Boom.
of the season.
Whole new life. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Jake, continue. You're
No,
doing quite the great dissertation.
Thank you. No, I mean, it just goes to show you can't make the playoffs in October, but you can put yourself out of them in October.
For sure.
So, we beat that dead horse with the Granado conversation, but the team needs to come out ready to play both in the season and in individual games. So, moving past that's kind of how they missed the playoffs in their mediocrity. So now I wanted to talk just a little bit about why they were so mediocre, why some of the trends throughout the season, stat wise, of how they performed. Not a lot to do with eye test or anything like that, which but more stat wise. I'll start here with 5-on-5 play. I'll say this about 5-on-5 play: the biggest correlator to success in the NHL is how you perform at even strength against your opponent. And frankly, this season for the Sabres, it was underwhelming. They were 24th in the NHL for expected goals at 5-on-5 play. And so basically what that means is that stat is from Money Puck. They track the total number of shots and how many are expected to go into the net, and then compare that and break that down by team. And so the Sabres were 24th in the NHL, hovering right above teams like Chicago, San Jose, Columbus, teams that were at the basement. Now, juxtapose that against the total number of 5-on-5 goals that they scored. They were 10th in the league. So they overperformed their 5-on-5 expected amount of goals that they should have scored. And so those two things combined, flat out, they just need to be better at 5-on-5. How you get there? That's for the coaching staff. That's not for me, but that's just I'll beat that road all day long. That has to be better. You will not win in the NHL if you can't compete 5-on-5. Anything you want to say on that before I move down to some special team stuff?
No, man. I think, I mean, it's obviously that stat makes sense, right? 90% of the game is 5-on-5 play. Power plays are only 2 minutes, and it's a 20-minute period, 60 minutes in a game. So that makes perfect sense that it's that stat is that correlative to success. And yeah, I'm not going to pretend and be able to explain the X's and O's of what make a good hockey team, but if we do go back to eye test things, man, and I've said this before on the pod, the Sabres are bar none at their best when they are playing with an insanely aggressive forecheck and taking away that time and space. And I think once you get a coach in there that embodies that whole thing full time, you're going to see a different kind of Sabres team. But maybe I'm completely wrong.
No, I agree with you. And that's it's a few bullets down, but this is a good time to talk about it. It's just the offense in general. I agree with you. When they're aggressively forechecking, that's when they're at their best. But it's some teams go in with like a bruiser forechecking mentality where they're using their body to force space. The Sabres are really at their best when they're using their speed, not their size or aggressiveness, to create disruption and pressure the puck. But we didn't see it in every game. And then, conversely, if they're playing a team that does pressure them more with the body and is more physical, that's where they really seem to get shut down and unable to rise above that. So, it's a more consistent approach with their forechecking, and also it's adaptability too. When a team comes in to your building or wherever you're playing and tries to dominate you physically, you need to have an answer for that. And it doesn't have to be matching the physicality, but it's got to be something. It seemed like often the Sabres would just get they would get hit and they would just crumple. There wasn't a pushback, even if again, I don't want to, it doesn't have to be a physical pushback directly back. It doesn't have to be an equal and opposite force, but there needs to be some change to the play style, to the system, to whatever it is, where you are able to adapt and overcome and play against different styles of teams. If you're not a good team if you can only win one way, and it seemed like that's kind of what they were doing this year.
Jake, I'm going to throw your name in the coaching hat for the Sabres.
I will decline because I want to see my team win.
It's going to be like, hey, Kevin, I got this buddy Jake.
Hey. I'll send you a clip or two, okay?
He's pretty smart, Kevin. You might want to listen to what this guy has to say.
He's, he won't win you many games, but
he's really tall, really handsome.
He might bullshit his way into some good sounding answers here and there, but
that's right. Dude.
Yeah. But you are right. You hit the nail on the head. 5-on-5 play is the majority of the game. Special teams are impactful, but not necessarily the biggest correlator to success. With that said, the power play fucking sucked this year.
Correct.
Yeah.
They were 28th in the NHL with a 16.6% success rate on the power play. That is just flat out not good enough. Yeah. Because there is a lot of offensive firepower and talent on the team, and it's clear that something needs to give. It improved kind of towards the end of the season a little bit, but it was grim during the beginning and middle of the season. And look, if you increase, we're not talking about moving mountains. You don't need to have a 30% power play to succeed. If you bump that up to 20% and you pot maybe, I don't know what that correlates to, like 5-6 more goals, that can be a difference maker in 3-4 games. And then all of a sudden you're right there in the race again. So it is important. And that's all I got.
It's so crazy to me. Buddy Ryan, who had some comments here on the live stream. We were talking today. Has Matt Ellis once in his career as a player, was he ever once on the power play? Like, why is he running this, dude? Matt Ellis was a career bottom 6 grinder, dude. Like, and that's not to say it's not automatic that good players equate good coaches or that bad players equate to bad coaches. However, I do take a little, I do the confused golden retriever thing, right? Sideways head. When I see, when I think about Matt Ellis as a player, and then I think about him running a power play, I'm very confused at that, but I digress.
I agree. I have no idea if he was actually, I'm sure he was in like juniors or something like that, but
so was every player in the NHL. They all were on their power play 1 in juniors.
For sure. I don't know. Yeah. Something's got to give there.
For sure.
Anyways, I mean, so that we alluded to the penalty kill being better, and it was. I don't want to harp on that. I don't think that was a reason that they performed where they were. I think that was a bit of a buoy kind of keeping them in where they were. Totally. But I do want to talk about something that could be used as an excuse. I'm not trying to say that it's an excuse, but I think we need to acknowledge what it was. There were a few significant injuries that I think hampered the team. Quinn Hughes plays for Vancouver.
God, I wish.
No, Jack Quinn. He went down last offseason with a freak Achilles training injury. And he got injured I forgot what the injury was, but mid-season after he came back, he went down again.
Something with his knee.
So he's proving to be a bit injury prone, which is a little concerning. We'll see how that progresses. But when he played, he was fantastic. A significant improvement from his play the prior year when he played more games, but with less of an impact. So if he can have a good offseason and come in healthy and ready to play and play for, I'll say 60 plus games would be ideal. I think that you're adding a true second line winger to your roster that you really didn't have for a lot of the year.
Yeah. I agree 110% there. I'm going to get into him more a little bit later.
Heck yeah, I'm in. Who's the other? I know we're thinking of the same player. Who's the other one that was injured but played more games?
Yeah, so Tage Thompson. Tage Thompson broke his hand earlier in the season, and the speed at which he came back, obviously this is not as significant of an injury, so it's not as big of a deal. But the thing that comes to mind is how quickly Adrian Peterson came back from the ACL injury. But he was insane, and Tage Thompson was not. Tage Thompson just came back way too early because I think he felt like he needed to. And he was physically able to. Was he full health? No. And I think you can see that from the way as the season went on, his numbers improved, right? Like, I don't know, dude. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that playing hockey with a broken hand or a freshly healed broken hand sounds easy to do in any capacity. So I'm willing to give Tage Thompson a little bit of a break there, but I do think that his play was significantly hampered from when he came back to that injury until about a month and a half ago.
Yeah,
maybe right around there. Maybe you could make a case for 2 months ago. That's a huge chunk of the season. That's like.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Yeah, that's when he started looking better. I think. Who knows when he actually felt better with his hand? But
right. So yeah, that I see when your leading goal scorer and your most lethal offensive weapon breaks their hand and comes back too soon. I mean, yeah, that's a problem for your offense, no doubt.
Agreed. Yeah, and he's had about the last 2 seasons before this one were kind of his breakout year. He might be a superstar year, and then this year where he kind of underperformed. In those 2 seasons prior, he was a 15 to 16% shooter. And that dipped to 11.8 this year, so sub 12. Yeah. If he comes back with a healthy hand and can stay healthy next year, and that number rises to, doesn't have to get up that high, but like 13, 14%. I mean, he was a 29 goal scorer, almost 30 goal scorer this year. I mean, he could be right back up there, 35, 38 goal scorer again.
Hell yeah.
The other player, I think Alex Tuch started the year pretty slow, and I think there was some rumor of him having kind of a nagging injury as well, but he had a down year as well. The other player I wanted to mention, just not because he was injured, I think he was fairly healthy, but Jeff Skinner is notorious for having a torching season where he is going off and then having a down year. Well, this was the down year, so I'm expecting him to bounce back next year and put up 30 goals, 40 assists, something like that. So
yeah, for sure, dude.
We'll see. The other big injury, who's again another player proving to be injury prone, Matthias Samuelsson, dude.
Yes,
he missed half the season.
Yes, he did.
I have no confidence that he won't miss half of next season too.
Oh God, don't say that, dude. Because I feel like this team needs him. I'm willing to give him one more season, man. But if it's anything like the injuries have been the last 2 seasons, I'm gonna be banging the table to trade him or get rid of him somehow.
We'll see. I'm not that far along. I hear Lance typing right now.
He's one of our 13 viewers right now. He's like, this motherfucker.
Sure. No, all right. We'll move on to one last position before we wrap things up a little bit. Goaltending, man. UPL, how good was he in the second half of the year?
He was what we would call goddamn awesome in the business.
Phenomenal.
Says scientific term.
Yeah, exactly. I think Devin Levi coming in was the biggest push for that guy that it could have been.
Hell yeah, bro.
So that plus, like I mentioned it before, team defense improving. I think those 2 things made him soar. Like he started okay, but he really took off in 2024 after January 1st. I want to read you some stats on UPL after January 1st. He had 20 wins in 2024, which was 4th in the NHL. He had a .919 save percentage, 3rd in the NHL, and he was tied for 1st in the NHL with he definitely had more than one shutout since January 1st. I wrote that down wrong. But he had,
I'm looking at it with you, and I'm like,
I was like, wait, that's not right. Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it. I'll produce a little bit, Jake.
I got it too. But point being, he had 5 shutouts in over the course of the season and had 0 last year. He just had a meteoric rise. He had 4 shutouts in 2024.
There we go.
Yeah, so just he deserves some flowers. He had a great season.
Absolutely.
He kept them in as much in the race as they were, which was not really anything that anyone should have taken seriously, but I know some people did.
All right, yes or no question. Does he continue that momentum into next season? Yes or no? Don't give me a dialogue. I want yes or no. I want some bold takes here.
Yes.
I'm also going to say yes.
Okay.
Well, speaking of bold takes, I think we should circle back to our bold, baseless, and I think bodacious predictions.
Bodacious is my first part. Yeah. Back in the drop. Darn it.
Back in October. Tom, do you want to take us through these?
I would love to. So, Nigel, in his infinite wisdom, he predicted that the Sabres would finish as a top 3 team in the Atlantic.
Nope.
Not even close.
Didn't even.
He also predicted that Rasmus Dahlin would win the Norris.
It hasn't been voted on, but yeah, then no, there's no shot.
No, he didn't.
And then Jake predicted that the Sabres would finish with a better PK in the top half of the league. Last year, they were 28th. And this year, they were what, Jake?
13th.
Hey, that's better. That's better. And that's top half, right? Like that feels like that's where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Right? Top 10, top 5 would be amazing, but top half is where you want to be.
But you don't need it to be. You just need it to be. You need it to be sufficient. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
13th is perfectly fine.
Okay. Cool. He also predicted that JJ Peterka would score 20 plus goals and have 60 plus points. He ended the year with 28 goals, so correct, and 22 assists, which equated to 50 points. So close, but not quite.
Close. It was there. Yeah. Goals are sexier than assists. So he had a great season, man. Like he did. 28 goals for a second-year player is fantastic. So I was really bullish on him after the World Championships last spring, which for those that don't know, the NHL playoffs go on after the NHL season, but there's an international tournament that happens typically in Europe, country by country. And so a lot of players that are eliminated from the playoffs go off and play for their home country in that tournament. But he had a phenomenal tournament, and you typically see players that are young, that are ready to break out, do well in that tournament, come back the following season hungry and ready to go. And that's exactly what he did. That's why I predicted that.
Love that.
I did.
And
Good
then
job,
my dart throws here were that I predicted the incorrect goalie, that Devin Levi would finish the season within the top 10 of the league in save percentage. And he did not, because he spent a lot of time in Rochester.
Well, he did, Tom. He was a top 10 goalie, just in the wrong league.
The league, Tom. Yeah,
I did not. You're right. Yeah,
these numbers for Levi in the AHL this season are okay. This is going to be, I didn't even think about this until I'm looking at this right now, a perfect encapsulation as to why you don't look at goals against average, but you look at save percentage. Okay, so Levi's numbers in the AHL finished with a 14-6-3 record, a .925 save percentage, which, look at me in my eyes, YouTube and Twitter, that's effing sick. Okay, a .925 save percentage is crazy. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, now a 2.48 goals against average. That's not a gorgeous number, dude. What that tells me, it's not a bad number, but what that tells me is that Rochester allows a crap ton of shots, dude. This is why save percentage is the king stat for goalies, man. Because if you are playing for the Sabres and getting 45 shots a game cranked on you, versus being the goalie for the Boston Bruins and facing like 23 shots a game, right? Like that stat matters, bro, and insanely matters. 0.925 on the Bruins, you're winning the Stanley Cup every time. Like that's obviously like a stretch. I'm exaggerating, but like on the Bruins, if you're with the amount of shots that they give up because they're so defensively sound, that's a crazy stat. It's even more crazy as a goalie that's facing 40 plus shots a game, and that's where I'll end it.
We don't have
like it's almost like working in a shooting gallery is a problem, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. Jake,
Oh,
what were
man.
you gonna say?
I'm a goalie nerd. I love learning and hearing about goalies. And there's a particular goalie that I follow that I really like named Kevin Weeks.
Weeksy.
Yep. Yeah, we don't have time today. We should do a separate goaltending episode.
I would be so down, dude. Yes,
because my heart sank when you said save percentage is the most important goalie stat.
I think it is.
Ooh. Book it now, folks.
Yep. Okay.
Tune into this channel later.
It's coming. We're gonna have the great goalie debate.
My God, I was a goalie. What are you gonna do to me?
It's also oh my God, I have a correction too. It's not Kevin Weeks. Kevin Weeks is great, but it's Kevin Woodley. Kevin Woodley is the guy that I really enjoy.
Kevin W.
Okay.
All right.
Anyways, yeah. Oh, we'll have a goaltending.
I love it.
Some episode over when it's the doldrums of the summer. Tom, take us through the last prediction here.
Yeah, well, this one was fine. The team was as a whole would have a strong first third of the season, waver in the middle, and then put it together for the last third. And Jake, what happened?
Well, they didn't do any of those things. They were aggressively and consistently mediocre.
Yes, we love it. Now, boys, at the end here, I would love to get some pomp and circumstance playing. I wish I should have had the drop, but I would like some. There you go. And we have some superlatives of the 2023-2024 season, and these two fine-looking gentlemen will have some nominations to submit. So, do you guys want to? How do you want? What's the? We didn't talk about process. Well, maybe you did, and I wasn't there.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Well, so did I call him out and you guys go, or how do you want to do this?
So Tom will call him out, but the way it's going to go, Jake was a little bit better with his prep, and he has. So we have 5 superlatives to give out here. Those superlatives are going to be MVP, most improved player, most polarizing / controversial player, most disappointing, and most excited for next year. I have one player for each category, and there's a couple of categories where Jake has a few. So I'm going to go first for each category. Tom, you can rattle them off, but I'll do mine first each time, and Jake will follow up.
Okay.
Cool.
So MVP, most valuable player. Nige?
Yeah. For me, this is UPL, dude. I don't think we're even sniffing that playoff conversation, even a tiny little baby bit, if he's not standing on his head. And he obviously makes a case for most improved player too. But like Jake said, goalie success is also dependent on team defense. So that's why I stuck with UPL as the MVP. Just some quick glow up numbers here. UPL's save percentage and goals against average for last season in the NHL. He played about 15 games in the AHL or something around there. I did not include those games with this sample. This is only his NHL games. So 22-23 season, 0.892 save percentage, 3.59 goals against average. This season, a 0.910 save percentage with a 3.07 goals against average. So crazy improvement to this season. And literally the last third was just putting the entire damn team on his back. Jake?
Yeah. See, this is good. I had him, but this is good. I have other names. So I want to talk about Victor Olofsson for MVP.
Oh my God. I'll log off right now, dude.
I'm sorry to throw him under the bus. He won't be here next year anyways. But no, the only name I had written down for this was UPL. I didn't feel that anybody really grabbed the reins, offense or defense. There were some players that had some decent seasons, but there wasn't anybody that really stuck out to me as having a bona fide MVP level season. Except UPL. I'm not going to repeat what you said, but yeah, incredible stretch from January 1st onward. Incredible season. He improved a lot he was the MVP for me.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Category number 2. Most improved player.
Yeah, this one for me, I could have been UPL, but JJ Peterka, dude. 77. So last season, 77 games played, 12 goals, 20 assists for 32 points. That's a solid rookie season. This season, 82 games played. That in and of itself, right there. Love a guy who's available and healthy. 82 games played, 28 goals, so more than doubled from his rookie year with 22 assists for 50 points. So, yeah, a major glow up for our boy JJ Peterka from the rookie year to the sophomore season.
There really was. Yeah, we mentioned him already with the predictions. Incredible year. He looked more confident.
Looked awesome.
Passing the eye test, the stat test, like whatever test you want to put his season through, he passed it.
For
he
sure.
Looked fantastic.
Agreed.
And I'm so excited. I think we might look back and he might be the best prospect we develop in-house. Looking back on this era.
That would be I would be 0% shocked at the trajectory he's on right now.
Yeah. So yeah, he's mine too. The other name I wrote down there was UPL. Obviously, he had a glow up too, for sure.
Yeah, big time.
This one's fun. Most polarizing / controversial player.
Yeah, I struggled with this one, and I ended up landing on Matthias Samuelsson. I think people like you and I, Jake, I would be in this bucket a little bit. Injury concerns with Matthias Samuelsson at this point. He's now missed a significant amount of time over the course of 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But that being said, if he can stay healthy, dude, I in particular am very bullish on Matthias Samuelsson. I think he fits that prototype jam kind of player I'm talking about. Usually when I talk about jam, I'm talking a little bit more about forwards since they're the ones forechecking and they're the ones down in the battles in the offensive zone. But defensively, he's the only guy on the team right now besides Clifton that really packs a punch physically. He's not crazy skilled, but he's a stay-at-home defenseman. I shouldn't say that because Dahlin packs a punch physically too. But Samuelsson, and he's like in my opinion, our best stay-at-home defenseman. You know, he's going to be where he's supposed to be while guys like Dahlin and Bowen Byram go and do their thing. Some people don't like that defensive pairing. Some people do. I typically do fall in the liking that pairing category, but I see a lot of lack of love for Matthias Samuelsson from a lot of the fan base. It feels very split.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I only had one name written down, but it genuinely was a different one. So I'm glad you said him. I picked this category for this player, and that player is Dylan Cousins. I think to me, as far as the eye test goes, was a player that had stretches of greatness and stretches of just, Dylan, you look lost out there.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of a game by game basis. I thought he often struggled with how he fit into his line and how he fit against the other team. And look, I mean, he had a great year last year, so that's something to commend him for. But he struggled this year. He had about 20 less points. He had significantly less goals. I think he had he had less than 20 goals this year. I need to see that improve. If he signed that big contract, he's the second line center and the first line center, quite frankly, role is up for grabs for the next 4, 5, 6 seasons, whatever he wants it to be, really, while he's under contract. I need him to go out and take it. Like, he has the makings to be a Selke candidate year in and year out. He has the makings to be a Anze Kopitar-esque player. I know that's a lofty ceiling, but I think he has the skill. He has the wherewithal to do that. I need him to go out and prove it year over year over year over year. And he fell short of that this year. That's all I'll say on him. I think he has a big opportunity to prove that this year was a fluke. But he needs to do it.
Totally. Agreed.
Next category, most disappointing.
So, Dylan Cousins. Yeah, that was my guy for this category. And I'm going to lead off with this. I'm very willing to write this off as a fluke for Dylan Cousins. My best guess as to what happened, because I thought he looked really good his rookie year. And I thought last year, he obviously had the the crazy glow up last year with the crazy numbers, which I'll get to in a second. I'm going to guess that, and I'm going to use the word immaturity, but he's not immature in the sense that he makes immature decisions. He's just young. I'm going to chalk up this season to a choking under the pressure with the massive contract that he signed, with the massive numbers that he put up last season. I agree with everything you just said, Jake. I think Dylan Cousins does have that caliber of ceiling. I think between his physicality and his speed and what he can do with the puck, I think he's a great hockey player. I think this was it's not a sophomore season, but I think it was a sophomore slump from last season. And we combine that with choking under the pressure with the big new contract. Numbers between last year and this year. Last year, 81 games played, 31 goals, 37 assists for 68 points. This season, 79 games played, so still healthy and pretty damn resilient. 18 goals, 29 assists for 47 points. You can't have that from your second line center, like Jake just said. And that's all I need to say, because Jake just did a great job of breaking down Dylan Cousins.
Hey, thank you. That's a good one. Yeah, for sure. We had similar sentiment, different categories.
Mm-hmm.
For me, for disappointing, I'm going to give you two names. One of them, it is their fault. One of them, it isn't. Jack Quinn, not his fault.
Yep.
Freak injuries. You want to see him not be so injury prone in the future. But I was really disappointed that he didn't live up to expectations because of those injuries. So yeah. I won't harp on him. The other one that I do want to talk about that was disappointing to me, Peyton Krebs.
I didn't even think about him. And you're probably correct.
No, I'm not correct. These are opinion based. But look, I mean, for a first round draft pick, came over in the Eichel trade. He had a decent year last year, 9 goals, 17 assists in 2022, 2023. And I thought had more flashes last year of looking like a first round pick player than he did this year. I thought he was a bit unnoticeable at times. Only scored 17 points in 80 games, 4 goals, 13 assists. Like that's fine if he's going to be your fourth line center and play a kind of a shutdown role, which to be fair is kind of the position that he's been slotted. But with his draft pedigree and his age and his play style, I had a lot higher expectations for him, and I was very disappointed by the way he played.
For me, Peyton Krebs, man, I still think it's an opportunity thing. I think, like you just said, he's been stuck in that fourth line role, and I don't know, man. I feel like I say so many times a season, wow, Peyton Krebs' vision is crazy.
So much. Yeah, he's got great vision and great hands, but he's not in a position to use them all of the time.
Yeah, and that's why for me, like, I'm really just hoping that he is gonna be put in a different situation.
Yeah, and he sometimes does. He sometimes does get slotted up in the lineup, but I don't feel like he grabs it and
he's not doing
goes
enough
for it.
Opportunities. You're right, Jay.
Yeah, so that could be more telling too of a broader issue. But
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
Yep. Tom, last one, buddy.
Final category: most excited for next year.
And that one for me is Jack Quinn, dude. You take his numbers and you extrapolate them over 32 seasons, and also not that many games. 82 games. What the hell, dude? He's sniffing 30 goals, dude. He's right there with that JJ Peterka-esque season. So for me, dude, how badly could this team have used, another 30 goal scorer in the top 6? So, like you and I need oxygen. So I think with a healthy Jack Quinn, big asterisk there, because he's kind of flirting with that Matthias Samuelsson path. But if he stays healthy over an 82 game season, I think 30 goals is a borderline lock for him.
Yeah,
his shot is crazy.
Agreed. He has a great shot. He's got great offensive awareness, and I think he's a great passer too.
Yes, he is.
He's a very, I think, well-rounded player.
Totally.
Just needs to stay healthy. And if I can tack on, I think he's typically played on a line with JJ Peterka. Think about those two feeding off each other for 82 games, and tell me why you're not about to need to lie down for a minute thinking about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. You put a center that's just a center that just has a monster playmaker between those two. But both of those two are showing that they're goal scorers, dude. I mean, you'll never get a guy like this, or I shouldn't say never, but like a Mitch Marner or not Mitch Marner. Oh, I'm having a brain fart.
Give me the team. Give me the team.
Because it could be so many. A really good playmaking center between those guys, and they're going to put up some sick goals.
I totally agree, man. Yeah, I think we got robbed a little bit at the beginning of the year, not having the kid line, Cousins, Quinn, and Peterka together. So we'll see.
Dude.
We'll see where they slot in the fall. I'll throw two more. Yeah, is most excited to see. One we touched on already. Tage Thompson, healthy. Bring that shooting percentage up. Let him run. I feel like he had a breakout year 2 years ago. Now this year, teams, one, he was injured. Two, teams caught on to his tricks and how the Sabres were deploying him. Give him a new coach. Give him this mindset of like, okay, teams are aware of me now. Now I need to change what I'm doing to combat that. And I think he pops off again next year. So I'm excited for that. The other one, we haven't talked about Zach Benson hardly at all today, and I wanted to say his name.
Yeah.
Dude, 18 years old. I don't think he's turned 19 yet. But what an incredible season from that kid. He had
30 points, or did he hit 30?
He did, yeah. 11 goals, 19 assists, 30 points in 71 games. Like, so half a point per game as an 18-year-old playing against full-ass men. Like,
bro,
it's a great season.
Oh, I'm going to start to drool.
Not to mention, like, we've talked about it all year, but his forechecking and tenacity and board battles and things like that. He's an excellent young player. I think he was picked, 13th? I think there's a couple players. Yeah, a couple players. Well, I'll say 11 teams. I think Connor Bedard was the right choice. But I think there's a couple more. But there's at least 8 or 9 teams that should just be, cursing themselves for not picking this kid.
Crazy, dude. I wonder if there's a correlation between being tenacious and forechecking aggressively and putting up good offensive numbers. Tom, get us out of here.
Folks, if you had fun with us, we would please ask that you please give us a like, a share, a follow, all those good things. It really does help, and it's the best way that you can give us a little hand. Please give us a follow on X, TikTok, YouTube, at Let's Go Buff Pod. 2 Fs, please. These are my pals. That's Jake, that's Nigel, and my name is Tom, and you're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast. We're sending you love wherever you are. Go Bills, go Sabres, let's go Buffalo.